Just when I thought it couldn't get any worse than slap fighting, my social media feed was graced earlier today by this clip from this supposed sport where two individuals just simply run as fast as possible straight into one another. And this is so much worse than slap fighting. Welcome back, everybody. I'm Dr. Brian Sutterer, and the goal in this channel is to teach you more about the medical side of the sports world. Now, I have been extremely critical about slap fighting. I think slap fighting is a joke. I think it's unnecessary danger. I don't think it should exist as a sanctioned sport. I know it's, only sanctioned in Nevada here in the United States, but this takes it to a whole new level. This is from something called Run Nation, the Run Nation Championship specifically. It was streaming on Kick within the last day or two, and this sport, they'll call it, that's taking off in Australia, where literally two people just take off and run as fast as possible into one another and just collide. And as you can see, people get hurt seemingly all the time. I mean, the little bit that I watched in this, there were multiple people that got knocked out, got concussed. But the reason why this is so much worse than slap fighting is because this puts you at risk of serious spinal cord injuries, paralysis, and in my opinion, more potential for something ultimately terrible like death. And it's never a good sign when you're trying to find the safety rules and regulations about a sport that looks so ridiculous like this, and you can't even find a document or a website that gives any sense of what the protocol are. This is an article from February 6th from, it looks like, an Australian newspaper site here, talking about this collision sport Run Nation Championship held in Sydney, selling 5,000 tickets. Yeah, of course, despite serious head injury concerns. And when you scroll through this, there's really nothing that gives any clear sense of what the rules are or how this is supposed to be safe. I thought this was interesting. Run Nation co-founder and CEO Tremaine Fernandez says, unlike previous backyard iterations of the sport, RNC had developed rules to prevent head-on collisions. We manufactured side-on contact, many markers and rules on the field and rules of engagement, and on top of that, the player vetting process has just been enormous. Front-on contact was one of the challenges we had with the previous versions. It was a bit ugly. Yeah, I would say that's putting it mildly, because this is the article that's linked in this same report of a New Zealand teen dying after suffering head injuries in a tackle game with friends that was basically mimicking these running head-on into another person sports. So yeah, I would say there were some concerns with the previous version, but there are absolutely terrible concerns with this version, and any sports medicine doctor provider in Australia who's not beating down the doors of regulators to get this banned is absolutely ridiculous, and I think should be embarrassed. Now, they do say they have 2 doctors that are there on the field. They have EMS paramedic crews that are there, team of neurologists, physios, chiros, great. But let's see how that actually gets put into action with their most recent event. Oh, and you remember that comment in the article about how they're removing front-on collisions by making the athletes, the competitors, not run straight into each other? But what do you call this? Clearly they're clearly lining up, running straight into one another. The concept is that if you can have more glancing side-on collisions coming at an angle, you're not going to have as much direct impact, direct force. And when it comes to direct force that's going to result in a spinal cord injury, a serious life-affecting, potentially fatal injury, if you have direct axial load into the top of the skull compressing down from, this is why they eliminated spear tackling from the NFL, because guys would lower their head and the impact would come straight in axial and compress and crush the spine. So by trying to have more of a side-on glancing blow, yes, theoretically you are minimizing that chance, but it didn't take me long at all to find a clear example from this event where they are running head-on, lined straight up into one another. So yeah, sure, maybe starting 5 feet at an angle from one another is fine, but then if you turn your body and run at the person, you're still making this a head-on collision. And in this specific bout, I guess that's what they call it, these 2 guys actually knocked each other out. You can see how they come in here, and thankfully they don't hit heads with one another. This is one point that I'll say that makes me so nervous about this getting on and catching on to kids around. They come in, you can see how their shoulders just basically smack into each other's head, and they both get knocked out. We see the Caucasian gentleman here goes into a clear fencing response, sign of obvious traumatic brain injury. The individual on the right is also clearly altered and stumbling to try to get up. And then here come presumably the medical staff that is here covering this event. I'm going to assume that one of these individuals out here is the doctor that's there trying to help. And what is rule number 1 whenever you have anybody that you think has a spinal cord injury? You stabilize the cervical spine. I don't know, like now I get it, I don't practice in Australia, so maybe they have some different protocol down there, but I don't understand why in a collision sport where people are potentially going to be lowering their head and accidentally smacking into their head with this axial load, why are you coming out here and rolling the athlete with no real sense of any sort of cervical spine precautions? Like, this is not how you stabilize a cervical spine. The hand is just like on the head. You need to stabilize somebody's cervical spine when you're worried about a spine injury. And I don't know what other situation I would not be worried about a spine injury than something just like this. I guess they're worried that they're gonna vomit. I mean, this is kind of that old school, like, well, you gotta grab their tongues. They don't choke on their tongue. You gotta turn them on their side in case they throw up. You can see here how it's like they're still trying to just keep his head stable, I guess, to again, try to prevent some aspiration. Well, then he finally starts to come to. So what do? They just let him sit up. Like, there's like not really seemingly any attempt to safely evaluate his hands, his feet, his nerve control. We see then here, once he does finally sit up, there's maybe like a little bit of an attempt to palpate along the backside. Yeah, pat on the back, good job. A little bit of an attempt here to like palpate along the back of the neck, but not even like right when they stand up. You can see, okay, yeah, maybe starting to palpate. Okay, we're pushing along the back of the neck a little bit. That's good enough. Like, this is just crazy. I'm sorry, but I feel like part of my responsibility on this channel is to call out things that I think are completely dangerous and nonsense. And I think that this is an example of something completely dangerous and nonsense. In my opinion, as a sports medicine doctor, I do not think this should be happening. I do not think any regulating bodies in Australia should be permitting this. And I hope and pray that it gets shut down as soon as possible. And this is why I think it's so much worse than slap fighting. Slap fighting, like, you slap somebody, but like, I guess the worst thing that's going to happen is a concussion. Now that's bad. I'm not trying to minimize that, but that's very different than paralysis, a spinal cord injury, and potentially death, because you don't know the right way to do this and you go out in the backyard with your friends and you try to run into each other head first. It's kind of like human instinct to want to lower your head to protect and brace yourself, but lowering your head puts your spine in a compromised position by removing the natural curve of your spine and causes more potential for a severe injury. These guys doing this are at least like somewhat athletic. I mean, I get the point here. They're trying to like recreate what happens with rugby, right? You run into each other when you're playing rugby, and these guys are huge. These guys look fit. They look like they are in shape, and they, more importantly, look like they at least have some sense of the skill of how you should deliver a hit and how you should take a hit. Kids don't understand that. Kids that are going out to try and mimic and do these things do not have that built-in like physical ability. They don't have that skill of like the right way to wrap up and hit somebody, compared to like just going out and slapping a friend. Like, yeah, okay, you're potentially going to give somebody a concussion, but that's very different than potentially a spinal cord injury. I mean, it's ridiculous and really sad, the things that we continue to see that regulators will allow people to put their bodies through, right? If you're going to get paid to do this and it's some quick money and you maybe don't understand the risk and the harm, people will take these situations and they'll try to make some income, right? It's just like slap fighting. If there's an opportunity to do it, if a clip is going to go viral, people will do it because of money. There are other ways to like express your physical like skills and abilities than doing something like this that is so dangerous and risky that you cannot convince me in any way, shape, or form that it should be allowed to occur. I hope people in Australia see this. I hope any medical colleagues over there see this. Reach out to whatever your regulation systems are in place. I've tried to do things like that with how I've talked about slap fighting on this channel, and please, please, please do whatever we can so that this doesn't be something that kids start trying to do and think that it's okay and acceptable. That's it for the video, everybody. Let me know as always any questions or comments down below, and until next time, we'll see you later.